For my final edition of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, I will be going over the laws of charity and what divides them into charity, freedom, and wisdom. May be arbitrary to some, but this series should give you a fair idea of what these laws are in Eckankar and what my views of the material is, and some alternatives. You may offer your own version of such spiritual laws that you'll find in various New Age books, but not all of them agree as to what these laws are or should be. And from the 19th of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp. Laws and rules for the Chela. Eckankar Initiate. Spiritual truth is to live in the utmost way. Can you chant to raise your consciousness and handle your experiences? Alay, Kala, Mana, Aum, Baju, Sugmad, whatever the other ones are. To let your desires control you rather than controlling them is what some would call being sick with emotion. Jahiliya is the Arabic word for a period of such ignorance. Discrimination between things doesn't have to and probably shouldn't be the indifferent separation from moral, intellectual, and physical reality that Eckankar teaches. Kal, or time, is Jot, Naranjan, are the highest without blame. That is God, who is not a trickster, who would deceive creation. He is in God's kingdom of our ocean of love and mercy. For some reason, Eckankar wants to divide God into different parts. I don't know why. Being spiritual, or Ek, would be to accept that chastity, balance, chastity, humility, patience, harmony, and purity are acting upon it. The laws and rules for the Chela, Eckankar Initiate, would be responsibilities to God. Right should not be compromised for anyone or anything. Disciplines of a clean inner give way to embodying the way, to attaining realization about God as to what it is every creature's ultimate purpose of creation and goal to be on the side of, no matter what conflicting manifestations in this world. Now, October, or Virgo. Well, more or less October is where I put this on the thing, on my painting. And harmony, chastity, focused attention, cleanliness, purity. For the etheric plane, I make it like a mountain. And what is the other one that I have there? It's hard for me. I can't quite see. Oh, maybe just purity. From the 19th of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, the law of creativity. The creativity of the purpose of creation does not have to be separated into subjective and objective, as they are simultaneously present. Divine, thought, word, and deed are the archetypes for those of creation. Our purpose of creation as beings of limited free will is to serve Sugmad, our God, as a noun, as Ek, our spirituality, by being in line with these. The higher realms are said to see their archetypes with their similar forms in the lower worlds. Being in God or being spiritual is the ideal model of development. The generic is given feeling that makes them Ek for spiritual works, as they are submissive to God. Ek, or God, as a verb, makes our creativity possible. We are linked in a way to that within our realizations of existence. It is to be for the creativity that makes our path back to God smooth and fruitful. And also on the section for October, more or less, is Danda, the righteous law. So that little section is a combination of former and next. And as you know by now, that Ek is a very vague word, and I'm sure plenty of passages that mention the word Ek mean different things to different people. From the 19th of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, Danda, the righteous law. Many religions speak of a believer as having a certain code of conduct to match his belief. This is Danda. This righteous law shows how we act towards the high and low in society. The rights of none shall be usurped. No one attains such self-mastery that it is their place to do your will upon spirit. One is to act out the commandments of Ek, or God as a verb, even if one comes to be called an Ek master. In Eckankar, the inner directions are to be carried out promptly. One has to distinguish what are the evil forces. In the lowest of ages, the laws are in books, but not in people. It has been said by some that morality cannot be legislated, but this is what they are trying to do. In Islamic society, one is not allowed to invent what is lawful, halal, or forbidden, haram, according to one's individual taste, nor enforce any system of judgment wholly upon any other. The righteous law, or Shariat law, is a self-discipline that an individual and society is to choose and take on righteousness for themselves, rather than merely argue about if rightly held beliefs restrict or enable freedom and what they are. From the 20th of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, Dharma. Now, along with karma, Dharma's in my fire or bright quarter, what they used to call summer section of this painting on the wall here. Not the wall, not allowed to do that, I read. That painting I had propped up. Orthopraxy, or correct action, is the way that impulses are turned to ultimate rewards. The spiritual way should get us through our circumstance. One should not have to sacrifice the outer life to embrace the inner. They should both be in balance. We should be on orthodoxy or the right beliefs regardless of what others think. But this does not mean we have to make enemies of our family. Christianity teaches we should hate our own families for its sake. Al-Quran does not go that far, but it does allow secrecy when there is a reason to fear being murdered or persecuted for faith, as long as one remains a true submitter inside. Eckankar says no to either way and to drop off the membership if it will cause problems from family that disagrees. The Eckankar diversion from ethics is made clear by the dogma that it is better to act and regret later than to not act and thereby learn by mistakes. It is a better way to God realization through correct action when acting in ignorance to try to learn something. This is how Eckankar teaches that Satan is an instructor in the lower worlds. Adolescence through about the age of 25 is such a period for many. It isn't that right is unknown. It is that life teaches people firsthand why it is so. Dharma, or the conduct code of life, should be more of life as a Chela or initiate. We should embrace rather than trying to escape life. We may say we live without karma when doing all in the name of and serve more than ourselves, living in ignorance of what we should do rather than being conscious of it, and in general is what some would mean by generating karma. From the 20th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the law of ethics. The law of ethics is the collective good that remains good for all. In civilization, that is the basis for reward and punishment. Everything in this life will face its due consequence. When you agree to do something, others may abstain from it and rely on it because it is your duty. At the very least, we don't violate person or property, because we don't want the same done to us. These two are the most clear teachings on spiritual law and Eckankar. One can tell by the lengths of the summaries I share that the examples telling them apart tend not to be that precise. Would the leader of the most true spiritual path have to quote Richard Mayberry or another outsider to be clearer? Morality may be the way of society, but wouldn't a prophet called by God have a system that doesn't rely on compiling other paths? Islam and Eckankar also agree on the spiritual laws, also agree that the spiritual laws are of universal good and thereby submissive unto the manifestations of God and are unselfish experiences. From the 21st of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the Four Zoas. Now, the Four Zoas are depicted on my cooling quarter, or what people used to call fall, or water segments of my Eckankar Tarot Trumps painting. Four Zoas are categories of laws for those called a mahdis in Eckankar. A mahdi in Arabic, Farsi, and a number of other languages that have some Islamic influence don't have such an idea for Imam Mahdi, the final guide to restore Islamic law, first among his own people, then to unite the Muslim majority countries under the freedoms, love, and satisfaction and justice bears some similarity to the role of the fifth initiate in Eckankar. The difference is the master of the Eckadherent of the fifth circle shows the way to the Mahata, the living Eckmaster, any odd corporate kinesis master, instead of Sugmat or God as a noun, according to the Sunnah, or way of an international prophet whose book survived without change and whose example was passed on as well. But most would agree that humanity needs leadership, and we should respect those who show us the right way. We should want to be upon a path where studies can be continuous in the spiritual ways. The fourth law of the Zoas is of the believer station, where you want your path for all and they constantly live as a self-realized human being who is not merely churchy but wholly spiritual. The third law of the Zoas is humility and love for all. That part of being free of creeds and karma's bonds is a nonsensical add-on in the context and in the principle of the physical, astral, causal, and mental realities. The second Zoa, or law for higher initiates, is one that religious people would strongly disagree with. To not be arrogant and to be satisfied with fate is what they would agree with. They would also agree with the part about showing goodwill, but to never act to correct wrongs of others or consider them accountable for them is a level of indifference few can support. Islam and the spiritual paths based on revelation would teach that we correct with our hands what is right to. If we can only acknowledge that something is wrong in ourselves, we do that. The first Zoa, or law of the fifth initiates of Eckankar, would be in line with revealed religions and many philosophies. That would be to abstain from recreational drug use, extremism, and gambling. One is not to be an animal soul, but a self-correcting soul on the least, if not a soul at peace. Most religions call towards spiritual leadership, and the higher initiates of Eckankar are to direct the intelligence and wills to the Eckankar ideas of what is divided and that people need more than teachings. Do they really need the teacher to live physically for the teachings to work well? What are we being manipulated towards? Whatever the case, we can benefit from the experience of others. Now, last year I read some articles that seemed to show that this is what the heroin in $3,000 to $5,000 worth of street drugs would look like. In the shade, I don't see, you can see how white that is, but that's a scary thought, because $3,000 to $5,000 worth of what people get on the streets is like one of those little flour bags or something. I mean, there's other traces of opium and opiates in that, but this is supposedly the average in this country. Well, that's not heroin, but I found a vitamin that looks the same. You know, it's just magnesium, but people should think twice about well, it's not pure magnesium, it has a little flavoring with it. I mean, who knows what the other stuff is, right? I know there'll be MAM and 6-MAM and quinine and strychnine and sometimes Tylenol, and scary thinking what the other might be. From the 21st of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the law of gratitudes. The law of gratitude is explained in the words kafir and kufa in Arabic. Gratitude is a light we bring out, and to cover it is kufar. To not return the love we receive is ingratitude. To not do what is good for life in general displays our disbelief. Life is fulfilling when we are being grateful. Gratitude makes the focus on loving God and creation more possible. This is a light of religion that can acknowledge the actions of the Holy Spirit and the light beings and continue them. This is the light of religion that is shared in the Holy Spirit, which the light beings acknowledge the actions of and continue them. From the 22nd of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the law of love. Now, I also put the law of love on that water section. The law of love is the connections between things. It is the act of attraction. It is the motivation. It is the objectification. It is the subjectification. Al-Quran 51:56 mentions devotional service as the purpose of life for the humans and fire beings. Is this not out of love? Al-Quran 2:165 teaches that this love for God should be greater than that for all others. Al-Quran 3:31 teaches that we should follow Messenger Prophet Muhammad out of this love. The next verse links the obedience of God to the obedience of God's apostle. God's love is not for being ungrateful of this way. Al-Quran 4:36 expresses how God's love is not for conceit and showing off, as opposed to doing the rites of the progressively outward circles of relations and worshiping only God. Thus, we express divine love in maintaining a proper relationship with creation. That relationship is central to this and is that with God. When we give up on this, what value that remains in the fruits of much skill is less than the smallest spiritual act. God created us to be known and loved. It is our duty to seek His manifestations out. Their turn to God is known in the creation as God would not let His creatures be. We will always get more love than we give in this way. We can earn love as we give more. We need to stay from those actions that are not a part of that love, or we deserve wrath, which is a lack of love. Al-Quran 85:14 says, God is most forgiving, most loving. That fixes the issue of loving wrongly, or the wrong thing as being God, because God is not love. Understanding divine love is part of God consciousness, or taqwa in Arabic. Now, if this was really pure diacetylmorphine, it's still, it would have less of a smell than this, but this isn't bad. From the 22nd of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, Mayberry's two laws. Richard Mayberry's two laws that form the basis of his book, Whatever Happened to Justice, are to fulfill all you agreed to, and to not violate other people nor their property. If a Mahanta or exalted personality is not always there with us, guiding us as to the right way, what is the purpose of praying to an Eckankar corporate kinesis master, like he is there on the inner? Reading books that are not explicitly of one's spiritual path can be important to understanding the spiritual workings and how they can apply to outsiders. In Islam, there are the rights of God. God is the only one worshipped and the only one who is not arrogant in pride and majesty, and the rights of creation. The eternal social order is seen as for all society, and going outside of it causes bad karma to have its effects. If an Eckmaster is God's prophet, why can't he speak God's doctrine alone when speaking from spiritual authority? It seems that all Eckmasters were scholars, mystics, or philosophers. From the 22nd of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Non-Interference. The Law of Non-Interference would seem to be sanctioning indifference. We have certain freedoms that we want and should give to others. Souls have limited wills, and only God can do whatever he wishes. We shouldn't go so far as to use our freedom to violate the freedom others should have. Doing our will isn't God's will automatically. In that sense. What is right is not merely what we feel to be the case. There are spiritual laws to life that work if someone has no knowledge of them. Islam teaches that there is no compulsion in accepting a system of judgment. Eckankar would even go so far as to not even pray for the health of another's body, mind, or soul. Much less is the getting involved with the personal life of others, because Eckankar members, or spiritualists, think that the problems are deserved and such unsolicited help, in even silent ways, will come back on us negatively. Is it right that we should never be an instrument of change without the permission of all involved first? From the 23rd of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Plenty. The law of plenty is like saying God has given enough in provisions for everyone. When we live in gratitude, practicing spirituality, we find we have enough, or that others will have plenty when we seek out the blessings and share more than the physical ones. Spiritual wealth and knowing what we have, even when we lack, helps us realize we have more than enough to get by. Also, from the 23rd of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, the Law of Progressive Continuation. That would be January or Sagittarius over there on the painting. The law of progressive continuation is that there is always perfecting for creation to obtain. Only God is completely perfect. Our accomplishments are something to be satisfied with. In life, there are always more to add on. The prophets, exemplar and apostle, always came back and did more after their peak experiences. Some would say Jesus, Elijah, Elias, and Enoch did not come back. Others would say they died in a peak station. Just as an Ek, Eniod, corporate kinesis, or spiritual masters are always lacking, such will be your experience in the projections upon consciousness that is the Ek worlds. Sensation, feelings or emotions, memory, intelligence, and intuition will always not will always not know what else it can have in it. Is it worth it to continue upon a path progressing in its ways merely because there is more to it that is beyond your experience? Are these heavens higher states of consciousness for your being? From the 23rd of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp. Kamit, the law of silence. Now, this is one of the ones I put on the Saturn, Earth, Dark Quarter, formerly known as Winter section of the painting. Why would maintaining a law of silence be necessary for the sake of spiritual entities that wish to visit and communicate freely with initiates? Could that be because different people's inner plane projections might not agree with each other, or because Ek masters are the experiences are truly holy, but they cannot reliably maintain messages that do not conflict with each other or have other problems they don't want brought to the light? In Islam, there are at the least laws of silence. One is prevented from showing off of deeds. A second is the personal secrets entailed in modesty and security. A third is the dreams and visions not shared with the profane. I don't mean the uninitiated, but those we don't love with the personal love and the secular minded. I have personally found that I have more psychedelic and holy experiences when I have the opportunity to use them in faith sharing. Aside from the redressing of a wrong, a fourth is to not share our problems beyond what we need to or can encourage others by. In Eckankar, the teachings are not all as open to all as with revealed religion. They observe this Kamit, or silence, with a private interaction with the Eckankar Corporation, secret discourses of books, newsletters, initiations, and what they deem to be direct revelation from the Ek Master or corporate head of Eckankar. Some may be shared with those of the same initiation, but discretion is used. Imagine how much fewer the newcomers would be if the missionary work was full of how Harold Klemp or another Ek Master was like their god, or who personally interacted with them on the inner planes. From the 8th of the first month of 1437, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp, the year of light and sound. And I show that in the center of my painting, the years. The year of light and sound, the year of healing, the chariot, the scripture, the Ek missionary, the hue, the giving, the blessing, thanksgiving, creativity, Ek teacher, graceful living, and consecration. So I technically would have joined in a year of consecration and found out about in the previous year of consecration. 12 a.m. on October 22nd, 2013. Started the year of light and sound in the 6th 12-year cycle according to Eckankar. It is fitting that I am able to pick up on this project again at the start of the 3rd year as they celebrate 50 years of Eckankar as a historical entity and 25 years of their Chenhasan, Minnesota temple. The years in order are light and sound, spiritual healing, chariot, scripture, Ek missionary, Bahana, hue, giving, blessing, thanksgiving, creativity, ek teacher, or hana, thanksgiving, and consecration. I shared the following on November 16, 2013. Almost 112 months ago, I wrote, "The eyes of God are the sources of light, for light is that by which all things are known. The ears of God are whenever vibration causes movements and other options, for this is the essence of sound. The nose of God was wherever there is a chemical reaction, as this is the essence of smell. The tongue of God is wherever something is tasted. The skin of God is between every particle and energy, as all things are felt by it. The extrasensory perception of God is wherever nothing is sensed, because God is the ever-aware. This consciousness of the persona of God became central to spiritual movements that sprang up in the 1960s and 1970s. This was because, for the most part, what were deemed to be orthodox religions had distanced themselves from more personal ideas of God. Professional priesthoods and psychiatric community had validated their fears of what they didn't understand and of a loss of authority through others encountering what they were unaware of. This was through church law and diagnostic procedure. Meanings and purposes of life were laid out before that, but the atheistic and deist movements discouraged that. Now that experience was even discouraged. People sought out that experience of relation to God again. From the 10th of the first month of 1437, my version of the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp, answering 4 questions for the ECK Journaling Circle. It makes sense that I would come upon this section on learning, gifts, connections with the past, and my place in this year on Ashura 1437. The Ta'ziya, or mourning processions, and Kreya, or dramatic stories, enactments, are pretty much all of the past 500 years and are not properly linked to the Shiite imams. But the concept of feeling sorrowful of a past that was not one's own and the stylized telling of history is not unique to valid expressions of religion. We should learn from cyclical time and focus on the central importance of the revelation to prophets and their inspired words rather than political differences of different tastes and scholars. Karbala was a place of lessons of ethnic importance, but the Passover of Moses is of universal importance as we observe as an observance rather than a seasonal holiday. We learn from the living and the dead in ways that are gifts from them and God. We make our place in the present in how we understand things of the past. A. From the law of spirit, as with those I went over before it, I have gathered my understanding of it. As for others, it is more just a use of it. B. Harold Klemp, in his talk entitled Just Keep Trying, said that there are people who will tell the difference between a physical being and a spiritual being. Though the example in the latest seminar and those in my own life, I'll just know when I'm encountering a purely metaphysical entity and when I've encountered something more of this world, both on the inner and the outer. I cannot honestly say what I specifically saw of the Mahanta, is a visit from the living Ekmaster in the soul body. I can say that through the outer teachings I have been learning the Eckankar way. Of all the things he could be doing, I understand his job is called a gift of love. Gift of love to get paid for that you do very little for in comparison. I write more than he does nowadays. C. I can't think of any examples to share at the moment. I can't think that I did connect some of my past to other my path, either karmically or by pure meaning. Sometimes interpretations seem to come automatically. D. My place in the year of light and sound must be as what light and sound are to most, an action to be observed. From the 25th of the first month of 1436, my version of the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp. Conclusion. We've gone through my summary and comment on the 18 laws of wisdom, the 20 laws of freedom, and the 13 laws of charity in the spiritual laws of life by Harold Klemp. Christianity relies on emotional truth. Philosophy relies on intellectual truth. Eckankar teaches the physical, emotional, causal, mental, and intuitive truth does not always have to be present for spiritual truths to exist. Islam would teach that none of them have to be contradictory and the laws should be clear in themselves. I have tried to respond to every issue brought up in the law of causation, the law of change, the law of consciousness, the 5 spiritual laws of this world, the law of fixity, the law of God, the law of grace, the law of hue, the law of life, the law of Mksha, the 7 laws of the physical universe, the law of self, the law of soul, the law of spirit, the law of spiritual evolution, the law of spiritual non-perfection, the law of strength, the law of survival, the 3 basic principles of Eckankar, the law of assumption, the law of attitudes, the law of balance, connecting diamonds, the law of destiny, the law of detachment, the law of discrimination, the law of economy, the law of facsimiles, invisible laws, the law of karma, the laws of nature, the law of polarity, the law of progression or unfoldment, the law of spiritual protection, the law of resonance, the law of reversed effort, the law of spiritual growth, the law of unity, the law of vibrations, the laws and rules for the Chela, Eckankar Initiate, the law of creativity, Danda, the righteous law, Dharma, the righteousness of life, the law of ethics, the Four Zoas, laws for higher initiates of Eckankar, 5th circle and beyond, the law of gratitude, the law of love, Mayberry's 2 laws, the law of non-interference, the law of plenty, the law of progressive continuation, the law of silence, a second section that either belongs to newer editions for discrimination or another law. In the year of light and sound, and answering 4 questions for the ECK Journaling Circle, which would be answered on a monthly basis by some. Some of what I had to say was not mentioned in the Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp. My goal was to show a full understanding of the text at hand and allow you to make an informed decision between the Eckankar version of the principles at hand and paths such as Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, so-called Hinduism, Thelema, so-called Zoroastrianism, Confucianism, and others. I showed where some of these agreed and differed in ways. Some of these laws seem like something that a person has no choice whether or not